Hello, guys, and welcome to my podcast, to the second episode of my podcast. So, I hope that you liked the previous one. If you haven't met me yet, I'm an English teacher and I've been teaching for quite some time now. And I am mostly based as an online teacher, and that's my preferred way of work. So, my entire um, my entire program or my entire work is more or less now conducted online. And the reason why I chose it is because I found out that even, especially after COVID, it it worked not only for me but for my students as well. So if you listen to my previous episode, you could kind of get a glimpse of what I'm trying to do. So these first few episodes, I imagined as having something like an introduction to the whole online teaching world, where I'll more or less just talk about differences between, the online teaching and the regular teaching, and kind of introducing, um, you know, the listeners and my students into the world of online teaching and online learning without some, huge panic or so many questions that usually pop up when we start doing something that we haven't done before. So, today I would like to talk about some differences between online teaching, online lessons, and classroom lessons or the traditional learning. So, the first difference I would like to point out is definitely a place of study. Okay, so with regular lessons, with traditional type of learning, you go to the school, you sit in the classroom, and you listen to the educator speaking, and that's it. You have to travel to the school, and you have to spend some time there, and um, you have to sit in that desk and just do the thing that you did throughout your whole education, probably. With online teaching, it's quite different. Okay, so with online teaching and with online learning, you don't have the place of study. Okay, so basically, your place of study is wherever you want it to be. Um, as long as you have internet, okay, you can learn, and it's not problem. um, you can go to a cafe and listen to your lessons there, or you can do it at home, or you can do it on a bus while you're traveling to work or to school or wherever you're going. So the only thing that you need is an internet, or you can download it if you have an option, and that's it. So you don't have to like spend time traveling or commuting to the school, or spend money on gas or whatever your car is using, or time at all. Like, you decide, I want to learn right now, and you just open the program and you start learning. So that's a huge benefit, if you ask me, because I value my time so much, and I think that time is money, and therefore, uh, having kind of that time spent in transportation cut is a huge thing, huge thing and huge deal for me. So therefore, I think it's a huge benefit for the online lessons. Now, the second thing that really differs between online lessons and classroom lessons is a group size. Okay, so when it comes to language schools, students usually learn in groups. Okay, you can have individual lessons, but um, usually you just like pay for a course and then you listen with a group of students. Okay, when it comes to online teaching, it's usually not like that. Online lessons are more or less individual lessons. Okay, I'm not talking about online courses right now, I'm talking about lessons themselves. So, when you find an online tutor, you'll pay for an individual lesson. Very rarely you can actually find the offer of a group lesson, but that's not such a common thing in online tutoring. Okay, so it can be good. Obviously, the speed of learning and the material and everything else is kind of designed for your own needs. but it also has, some downsides as well. When you go to a language school and you have a lesson in group, it's way better to practice, for example, speaking or preparing for that speaking part of the exam, because it kind of mimics what will really happen in a real world. Okay, when you have one-on-one lesson, you kind of get used to the teacher, okay? So you don't get so nervous and everything else, which is good for you, but that will not happen in a real world, okay? But when you go to a language school and you have like 20 students or like 10 students that you are supposed to speak with, then it's slightly different. And then again, you can practice with a different person every time. So it's not so um, let's go with perhaps monotone as it can get with an online lessons. So um, even though if you kind of um, if you're a shy person or you just don't like huge groups, then individual lessons or online lessons are much better for you, including online courses. But you definitely should think about everything that you want to practice. Okay, so um, sometimes traditional learning could work for us, slightly better perhaps than the online teaching. Um, One reason why online tutors usually use individual lessons is because yes, you have platforms where you can have so many different, students logged in into a meeting. But it's really hard to manage such a huge group. Okay, so when you're in a classroom, then you write on the blackboard or you talk, and you see all those people. Okay, but when you're online, it's a bit more difficult to do it. Um, that's why if you're more of a group type of person, or you just like working in a group, perhaps you could try to go to a regular school. But if that's not a huge thing for you, or you prefer to like have your own time with the tutor, then definitely you should look for an online lessons. So the next thing that I would like to talk as a difference between traditional classroom and online learning is definitely finding a teacher. So when it comes to the regular classroom or the language school, you don't really, choose the teachers. You kind of join the group, and then a certain teacher is just assigned to your group, and that's it. So there are no much choice when it comes to that, as far as you're concerned. Okay. Um, but when we talk about online teaching and online learning, you definitely have like all the um, like you're in charge of who you're going to choose as your teacher. That's the first thing. And second thing is that with online lessons, you definitely have much bigger like group of teachers that you can choose among. Okay, so like there is this huge diversity when it comes to online tutors, and you can practically like really find a perfect tutor for you if you just try hard enough. Okay, but um, the thing is that well, this also kind of depends um, on the place or the country that a teacher is coming from, but usually individual lessons are also um, more expensive in a language school. Okay, it could be because they're registered as an official business, and the individual tutors are usually not. So that might be the difference. Or the individual tutors are trying to gain students, so they kind of lower the price a bit. But most of the time, language schools can charge higher prices than you would pay for the online tutor. So um, if price is paying, if money is paying big role in your deciding, then I think that online tutoring could work well for you. Um, Now, I just want to say that even though you usually pay less money for the online tutoring, the quality of the lesson is usually same. if not even better when it comes to the language school. Now, I have nothing against language schools, okay? Um, I think they're a great thing, especially for little kids and everything else, because you have more control over them. But I think that individuals tutor well, yeah, online tutors who work as an individuals, they kind of have to work really, really hard to build reputation. Okay, they don't have these huge logos and like buildings that you can, pass next to um, while you're walking down the street or in the town or whatever. So they really have to work hard to maintain, to build the reputation and maintain the reputation. And it's really easy. Like one review can literally, destroy your business if it's, a bad review. So, and it takes a load of great reviews to really like build your business. So I think that's what I meant when I said that the quality is good, because teachers are really, doing their best to keep the students, but also to, give the best quality they can. Now, I'm not talking about working over all those different sort of platforms, because most of those platforms, especially the Eastern ones, they don't have like a high, they don't, it's not so difficult to become a tutor in one of those. Okay. They, it's kind of really easy to join a group of teachers in that company. So, the standards are not so high when it comes to that. So I'm not talking about those teachers, okay? The quality in those companies, I can't talk about it because I've, never worked in one of those. And second, I was never taught by one of those. I'm talking about teachers who, are building the brand online. They're really talking, they're really doing it all by themselves. They have no connections to any company. They're just, building reputation all by themselves, and for themselves. And that's it. So, in that sense, and only for those, for that group of teachers, I say that the quality is, probably as good as for any, language school, if not even better. Okay. So, the next thing that I would like to mention is um, the interaction between the teacher and the classmates. Okay, now this one could actually go in favor of the traditional classroom. Why? Because we're all, human beings, and we all demand certain connection with other human beings, and it's much easier to reach that connection when you are actually talking with someone in person. Okay, so you can read the energy, you can read the body language, and again, it's different when you're in the same room with someone. All right, when you have an online class or an online lesson, you do see the teacher, and the teacher, does see you. But, you know, it's not the same. You can sense that sort of artificial thing in your communication. So if you are one of those people that have hard time relaxing or bonding with people, I think that for you it might be good to find a tutor who works both in person and online, and wants to build some sort of relation with that person, then to switch online, because it does feel a bit, the feeling is slightly um, like I don't know, it just it doesn't feel so natural having an online lesson as it feels natural to actually do it in person. So um when it comes to that sort of things, like interaction and uh, and like feeling comfortable, perhaps for some people, I say that it would go in favor for traditional. So if you're one of those people that it really matters, to you, that you see that person and interact with it in a real time, quote unquote, because um I mean, obviously even online lesson is a real time, but like to really feel that person um in person, then I would go perhaps for the first few lessons online, and then first few lessons, sorry, in person and then switch online. Just, so to get the sense of that teacher and his teaching methods, and to like just give yourself an opportunity to match the energy easily. Let's go with that. So the next thing I'd like to discuss is learning material. So this one, there is a lot of to talk about when it comes to learning material. And I think that we all know that when we go to language school or any school, we get the books, textbooks, workbooks, everything else, and that's it. You work on it, you work by those units, and then you do the homework, obviously at home. You come back to the classroom, and that's it. That's its traditional classroom. But when it comes to online lessons, the situation is slightly different. Okay, so what is the difference? The difference is that online tutors or online teachers, they very rarely use only one textbook. So most of them, if not all of them, now again, I'm not talking about teachers or like, uh, and no, some of the teaching platforms, especially the Eastern one, I'm talking about individual, independent online tutors. Um, they usually create materials, not usually, they create materials all by themselves. Okay, so when you come to the class and you say what you want and what you need, and you create some sort of like goals and everything else, and then you discuss about it with the teacher, he creates a lesson plan, and he uses, I mean, I personally, okay, I use, I think, about 5 or 6 different textbooks and workbooks for my students. Not in one lesson, but if we're doing, for example, present simple tense, we'll practice it for like 2 or 3 lessons at least, okay? And then I will use all those different textbooks to create materials for the lesson itself, to create material for practice, for homework, for bonus practice, okay? So all those different things. And I think there is much a bigger diversity in the practice itself, comparing to the language school, because the teacher definitely uses much bigger amount of resources than the regular language school does. Now another thing is that in traditional lesson, at least from my experience, you get the textbook and you get the workbook, and that's it. Sometimes you have the listening lesson in the classroom, of course. But when it comes to the online teaching, we teachers don't use only all those different like textbooks. We also use like articles and videos and YouTube clips and I don't know, you basically use whatever you can. Podcast episodes if it's something, shorter, or you just like mark the time that the student is supposed to listen to, that you will discuss about. And you really use everything you can imagine to be used in a lesson itself. Okay, so we are all over the place, and we use everything we can get our hands on to create the best possible material that you will be able to use in the best possible way for you and your goals. Um, and to help you reach your results in the quickest possible ways. And I think that's one of the huge advantages of the online learning, because we just use so many different materials, which I think is kind of also impossible to use in a classroom, because we do it all over our computer and we can just like send a link at any moment, and you can't really do that in a classroom. So I think that as far as that goes, that's why you usually get the results much quicker when you have one-on-one teaching, actually one-on-one lesson, or in this case, online lesson, individual lessons, because of all those materials and all that diversity that I've just talked about. And I think the last one I would actually talk about is the approach to learning itself. Okay, so when you when you're in a lesson, okay, when you're in a classroom, sorry, and you have a homework, and then you come to the classroom, the teacher will very easily see whether you've done what you were supposed to do or you didn't do it. Okay. With online lessons, that's not the case. Okay. So um, if you want to like not do the homework, you can probably get away with it. If you don't do something that you're supposed to, do, you will probably get away with it because the teacher is not there in the room to like control or to check it like manually or everything else. So I think that if you are not naturally disciplined person, perhaps the whole traditional classroom could like do you more favor because that teacher can actually come and be like, okay, so now I will like force you to practice discipline and be disciplined. When it comes to online lessons, you don't have that. So everything you do, everything you learn, the whole amount of um, like practice you put into a certain lesson, and the whole amount of energy you put into learning something, it's entirely up to you. So we we teachers can only give you the material and resources, and even the like consultation or whatever you like. We can give you the knowledge, okay? But whether you're going to integrate that knowledge and really use it, or it's just going to like, disappear within like 2 3 days, it's entirely up to you. So you don't have like a learning schedule in a sense that you have like a group of people and you have to follow up with them. You don't have someone who is literally going to stand behind you and like force you to do something. Everything is entirely up to you. Okay, all the assignments, all the extra work, all the practicing, you create your own schedule and you decide how much energy you're going to put into it. And as far as it's great thing, for some people it can be challenging because it's definitely something that requires a lot of discipline and dedication, and not many people have it. Okay, and I think it can be a good practice to do that because I guess when you pay something, you will be forced to kind of develop all that discipline and everything else. And it can be a step towards you implementing that discipline into so many different areas. But again, if you have trouble with doing that, um, I don't know. I think that perhaps you could like think twice or try practicing discipline or something else before diving into it, because usually um, not usually, but sometimes students just don't practice after the lesson enough. Okay, they don't put the work and effort once the lesson is finished. And then, after 2 or 3 months, they don't see some progress and they're like, okay, so it's the teacher's fault. Well, no, I mean, I can't move in with you and like force you to do something. I gave you everything I could and we practice everything, but practicing 1 hour per week or 2 hours per week, it's not enough. Okay, you have to do something between the lessons. And that's entirely up to you how you planned it, what you decided to do, whether you're willing to, put an effort in it or not. Um, so all the results that you create when it comes to online learning, yes, it has little to do with us, teachers, but there is a huge, huge amount of impact that's entirely made by you. So, in the end of the day, it really comes down to what you're ready to do and how much time and energy are you willing to put into that. Because, um, there is no such amount of like outside discipline, let's call it that way, as you have it in a traditional classroom. So I think that pretty much covers all of it. So as you can see, there are some benefits of online classroom and online lessons, and some benefits of traditional classroom. And um, I think in the end of the day, you just have to like write a list of, pro and cons and just decide what is the best for you. I think that, in nowadays, when we always lack time and we're constantly in some sort of hurry, I think online lessons is a great way to kind of um, fix that sort of um, lack of time, or um, lack of time, I don't know, in regular schedules or whatever. I think it's much easier to fit something in your schedule when you don't have to like include traveling and everything else towards it. But then again, as I mentioned, there are some downsides, like, having the total freedom of doing everything when you want or when you think you should, which can be very dangerous if your discipline is not already developed and if you didn't approach it as serious as you should. But in the end of the day, it all comes down to you, to your preferences, to your needs, and to your wishes. But if nothing else, I think you should, give it a try to both of those, and just see what works for you better in the end of the day. So thank you for being with me for this second episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you have any suggestions what we should talk about next time, or do you have any questions, feel free to write me in the on any of the profiles below, or write me on my email. And please don't forget to leave a like, or leave a comment, subscribe, any of the things. I really Any support really means to me. And I think that's it. So I'll see you in the next episode.